Why the ancient Greeks couldn't see blue. Think about the most famous sea adventure ever written. Thousands of pages. Ships crossing open ocean. Sailors spending weeks with nothing but water in every direction. Storms that last for days. The Mediterranean spread out to the horizon under a clear sky. Homer wrote all of it. He described the ocean over and over again in language so vivid that people are still reading it years later. And in all of it, the word blue never appears. The sea in Homer is wine dark. The sky is bronze. Honey, in one passage, is described as green. Sheep are violet. The ocean is stormy, vast, silent, wine dark, but never blue. For a long time, people assumed this was poetic choice, the stylistic preference of a writer playing with language. The real reason Homer never wrote the word blue is one of the most unsettling things ever discovered about the human mind. In 1858, a British scholar named William Gladstone sat down and systematically counted every color reference in Homer's writing. Gladstone was also the Prime Minister of England, which tells you how seriously the ancient Greeks were taken in Victorian intellectual life. What he found stopped him cold. Black appeared 170 times. White appeared 100 times. Red appeared 13 times. Yellow and green each appeared around 10 times. Blue appeared 0 times. He went back through the text. He was reading descriptions of the open Mediterranean, of skies stretching over islands, of rivers cutting through valleys. And in all of it, not a single mention of blue. His conclusion was wrong, but his question was exactly right. He suggested the ancient Greeks might have been partially colorblind as a species. We now know that is not the case. Human color vision evolved around 30 million years ago and has not changed. But Gladstone had found something real, something nobody had noticed in 2,800 years of reading Homer. Blue was simply missing from the ancient Greek mind. Gladstone assumed this was a Greek peculiarity, a quirk of one culture. Then linguist Lazarus Geiger started checking other ancient languages, ancient Sanskrit, ancient Chinese texts, the original Hebrew Bible, ancient Icelandic, Arabic texts thousands of years old. No word for blue, not one of them. These were civilizations with zero contact with each other, separated by oceans and thousands of years. And every single one of them described the sky and the ocean without ever using a word for blue. But here is the detail that changes everything. It was not random. When Geiger analyzed the order in which color words entered different languages, he found the same sequence every single time. In every culture ever studied, black and white came first, then red, then yellow and green, and blue always came last, without a single exception. Civilizations that never met, never traded, never shared a letter of writing. They all invented color words in the exact same order, and every single one of them reached blue last. There are two reasons blue was always last. The first is that there is almost nothing naturally blue in the world. Think about it. Blue food barely exists. Blue animals are extremely rare. And the ones that appear blue, certain butterflies, certain birds, are not producing blue pigment. They are producing a structural illusion, a trick of light that creates the appearance of blue without a single blue molecule in the material. The sky is blue. The ocean is blue. But ancient people had ways of categorizing both that didn't require a dedicated word. The sky was bright. The ocean was dark, deep, vast, stormy. Neither one demanded the specific word blue when you could describe what mattered about them with words that already existed. The second reason is that blue was nearly impossible to manufacture. Black came from charcoal. White came from chalk. Red came from clay. You could make all of these anywhere on Earth with materials available to any human being. Blue required chemistry that almost no ancient civilization possessed. There is exactly one exception. The ancient Egyptians invented a synthetic blue pigment around 2200 BCE. They called it Egyptian blue. They manufactured it, traded it across the ancient world, and built an entire economy around it. And the ancient Egyptians, alone among all ancient civilizations, had a word for blue. They had the color because they made it. They had the word because they had the color. The language followed the object. It always does. In the late 20th century, researchers decided to test whether the absence of a color word actually changed what people could see. They studied the Himba people of Namibia. The Himba have no separate word for blue, but they have many words for different shades of green. Far more distinctions in the green spectrum than English contains. Researchers showed Himba participants a circle of 12 colored squares. 11 were green. 1 was blue. The task was simple. Point to the one that is different. English speakers see it immediately. The blue square jumps out before you even finish looking at the circle. The Himba participants struggled. They could sense that something was slightly off. But the blue square did not isolate itself from the green squares the way it does for someone whose brain has been trained by language to treat blue and green as categorically different things. Then the researchers reversed it. The Himba participants a circle of green squares with one slightly different shade of green hidden among them. A difference so subtle that most English speakers could not detect it at all, but spotted it instantly because their language had built a category for that distinction that English never built. Their vocabulary had trained their visual cortex to draw different lines between colors. Not seeing less than English speakers, they were seeing differently, and in the places where their language was richer, they were seeing more. This is the critical thing to understand about what happened to the ancient Greeks. They were not colorblind. Their eyes were biologically identical to yours, the same optical hardware in every measurable way. Blue light was hitting their retinas every single day. What they lacked was a category. When you see blue, your brain does two things simultaneously. It perceives the wavelength, and it immediately runs it through a category system built by language, files it as blue, separates it from green, isolates it, labels it, holds it. Without the category, the perception happens, but the isolation does not. The color enters the eye, but the brain does not flag it as distinct. It blurs into the broader landscape of dark things and bright things, and the mind moves on without holding it. Like hearing a word in a language you have not learned yet. The sound reaches your ears, but you cannot hold the shape of it. It dissolves before you can grab it. The ancient Greeks looked at the Mediterranean every day of their lives, and their brains absorbed it and moved on. Now here is the part that should be impossible to ignore. If the ancient Greeks could not isolate blue because they had no word for it, what are you not seeing right now? Not color. Something harder to name than color. Think about the emotions you feel but cannot fully articulate. The specific quality of a mood that has no name in English. The precise texture of a moment you can feel but cannot describe to someone else. The thing you experience at 3 a.m. that is not quite sadness and not quite loneliness and not quite fear, but is its own specific thing that has never had a word you know. Do you see it clearly? Do you notice it the way you notice blue? Do you isolate it, file it, hold it? Or does it blur into the background the way blue blurred into the wine-dark sea? This is what linguists call linguistic relativity. The finding that the language you speak is actively shaping what you can perceive, what you can distinguish, and what simply passes through your mind unregistered, because no word in your vocabulary told your brain to hold it. The ancient Greeks were not primitive. Their eyes worked exactly like yours, and their minds were producing some of the greatest literature the world has ever seen. They just had a blind spot, a color-shaped hole in their perception that they could not see because they did not know it was there. And so do you. Your perception of reality is not a camera. It is a story your brain tells itself in the language it knows. The ancient Greeks are not a historical curiosity. They are a mirror, and the question they are holding up is not about blue. It is about what you are looking at right now that you cannot see.